everybody. Today's video is going to be about how to line up like a Big Six club. But before we start, check out the membership option below. You'll receive a free copy of my book this week. It's finally coming out this week and just finishing up a few things with that. Subscribe to the channel so you get all the updates, but let's get right into it. So as we see, a lot of teams like Arsenal, Man U, Tottenham, and then Chelsea play with a double pivot, but a lot of these Big Six clubs, even Man City at times, have on paper lined up in a 4-2-3-1 shape. But the main consistency between these Big Six clubs and the top teams are their double pivot and their two holding midfielders. Now, in each club, they play different roles, but pretty much every team in the Big Six plays with a double pivot or some variation of this, while the rest of their structure changes. But primarily, a Big Six club will line up with a double pivot and build their team around this double pivot. So, getting right into it, we can look at why. And this video is going to be looking at offensive and defensive reasons. So, defensively, the 4-2-3-1, it creates natural staggering between the midfielders as we see here. This maximizes spatial control and utilizes the cover shadow with players covering in the blind spots where the cover shadow does not reach. Now, offensively, the team occupies the 3 central corridors in advanced areas, as we see here with the wide players and the 10, and this offers a lot of flexibility within these roles to then vary their width, creating dual width with the fullbacks, as well as changing the occupation of the half space in the central corridor depending on the concepts used by the team. And now getting back to the double pivot. The double pivot creates a lot of variation or potential for variation within the first and second line. So as we see here, probably the most common rotation is just a deep lying playmaker dropping outside of the 2 center backs to then create a 3-man buildup, and now going to a single pivot. And oftentimes when this happens, player from higher up the field will drop deeper and create a double pivot situation. But with this, we have now a buildup that consists of players in each of the central corridors, and now the movements can start to happen. So in a Manchester City team, we often see Cancelo drop into this inverted fullback role, creating a 3-2 buildup, making them more secure in transition and in possession when they circulate the ball. So this is one movement that can happen, or we can take a player from an advanced area and use him as we take the number 10 and move him, which is more of a vertical rotation rather than horizontal. And then we still have the numerical superiority in the center of midfield with a 4 versus 3 with the wide players creating single width, and this creates an overload and can elicit defenders to jump and leaving space in behind. From here we can look at more rotations that can happen, and defensively the 4-2-3-1 puts these 3 players in a natural proximity to be able to press the first line or the fullbacks depending on whichever is happening. Moving forward with the video, it's important to know the 4-2-3-1 often can displace the 2 defensive players in the first line. When the team sets up in a more of a 4-4-2, we can use our double pivot to create space. So what this means is we can have one player pinning the 2 forwards, playing between them, thus decreasing their distance between each other, and we can even stagger this. And we can have one player take advantage of the weak side, almost like the rotation we just saw, but just a little different. And when we play against 2 forwards, it can be more useful. So as the players shift across, we then can circulate the ball and create an advantage through the half space, dual occupation of the half space, and have our player, our weak side holding midfielder, free against the ball. Now it's important to notice and to note the potential in our back 4 to create asymmetry, to then create an asymmetric back 4 and have occupation in each of the center 3 corridors, when using an asymmetric back four. So this is something Manchester City might use. They rotate, they have players come into the first line from the fullback position, which creates single width, and it creates the width from our weak side outside midfielder. And then we have occupation typically from our higher midfield players. One is our wide midfield player and then our number 10. And this would create natural passing lanes between the defense going from the platform or the holding midfield position to then into the advanced areas, creating diagonal passing options from these areas, while we have just created our back three with our asymmetric back four to then launch attacks into advanced areas. So those are just a few concepts on the most trending formation, the 4-2-3-1, with the key concept being the double pivot because of the variability it offers teams. And these were just a few brief video on some of the concepts that go along with this. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.